Some packets.
Thank you.
He's got them. Oh, you can already have it.
Okay, if I can have your attention, we'll call the November 2019 City of Rolla Planning and Zoning Commission to order. You should have received the agenda. Any changes or suggestions for change? If not, we'll proceed as listed. We may amend some of the public hearings because I don't think we need a couple of them, but we'll get that when we get there. Might adjust your mics so the TV audience can hear us. First item is approve the minutes. Madeline distributed those. Is there any changes or corrections? If not, I'll rule those approved as printed and distributed. Excellent job again. Thank you, Madeline. Next item is report of recent city council actions. Mr. Coots.
You may remember from actually 2 meetings ago, discussed some changes to the code, a text amendment regarding sidewalks. That went on with a recommendation for approval to the city council. City council took a look at it. They did have a couple of minor changes, so made those changes, and then they eventually did approve it, and the ordinance has been read. Then there was another case at the last meeting. It was a request for a vacation of a portion of the right-of-way of 6th Street, and that went forward to the city council with a recommendation for approval, and that was also approved by city council. The ordinance was read at the last meeting.
Any questions about city council action? Okay, thank you. Okay, we have actually have 6 public hearings listed. The first is a Missouri Southern Seeds rezoning from GI Government and Institutional District to M1 Light Manufacturing District, a property addressed at 2050 Old St. James Road. Mr. Coots?
All right, this is an area map of the property. The red highlights the property. It's an undeveloped piece of property right now. As I said, it's currently zoned GI Government Institutional. It is surrounded, however, by property that is zoned M1, which is the light manufacturing. And then to the south, though, it's important to note that it's adjacent to property that's zoned R3, which is the multifamily district. There's a little bit that's zoned M2, and the right-of-way is zoned R1, but that's... Anyway, and then the comprehensive plan indicates that the property and the entire area basically is appropriate for industrial type uses. This is a street view looking to the south on Old St. James Road. As I said, the property is undeveloped. It's just trees right now. When reviewing a request for rezoning, got to consider the following criteria that's also listed in your report. Just to summarize, the request appears to be consistent with the adjacent current and future uses. It does have frontage on an arterial road, that's the Old St. James Road. It is, however, adjacent to a residential area. If the property is ever developed, it will require some landscaping and buffering to separate the two. No plans have been submitted. However, the owner has indicated that they do not have any plans to develop the property at this time. Do you have any questions for me before we move on to the public hearing?
I do, Tom.
Yeah.
What's the, do you know what the sort of width of the buffer zone is for this adjacent to the R3?
Well, really, it sort of depends on what they do. It
do.
kind of gets wider. It can be narrower if you have a fence and some plantings. Then it requires it be even wider if you don't have it. Let's see. No, I didn't list anything specific. Do you want me to?
I can look it up when I get
All
it.
right.
Any other questions? Comments? Okay, not, we'll officially open the public hearing. Anyone wanting to speak to this issue, please come forward, list your name and address for the record. Please try to limit your comments to 5 minutes approximately, and try not to repeat what other people have said if possible. Anyone want to speak to this issue, please come forward. Mr. Cowan?
Hi there, I'm Mike Cowan. I am president of Missouri Southern Seed and the property that is subject here. To answer your question, the buffer between our driveway to the first residence is probably close to 300, 400 foot. Say 200 on the minimum. At this time, as we said, we're not going to have any plans to develop it. Main purpose was that it's the only land that is touching our property that was up for sale, and we wanted to buy it before Mr. Poe did. So I thought it was a good piece to acquire in case we wanted to do any additional warehousing. So
Okay, thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak to this issue, please come forward. Seeing none, we'll officially close the public hearing. Any questions or comments from commissioners?
Now, it says from M2 to C3, and your map shows GI, where'd it go?
It's GI's government because it's RMU.
But it says from M2.
Well, that's probably a typo,
Okay.
I would presume. Mr. Coots is, I'm sure.
I lost him.
Well, I'm sure it's a typo.
Okay.
Must be.
Okay.
Very good.
No, we're rezoning from
GI to M1.
GI to M1, so, and
That's what
and
it
it's
says.
M1 right now, so his
The other
business,
property.
adjacent business is all M1 right now. Hose gas across the streets, M1. And it's all light manufacturing. And it's going from government, which is actually not a zoning, but it is. It's just any school or city or anything like that. Does that answer your question?
So we're going to M1.
Yes, from
Okay.
GI.
Okay, got it.
Any other questions? I'd entertain a motion.
I move we send this to city council with approval.
Second.
Shields and Shields, you can take your choice. No, Steve and Monty. Okay. Any other questions or any comments? Roll call vote.
Anderson,
He's absent.
Bowie,
Yes.
Aberly,
Yes.
Martin,
Yes.
Schmidt,
Yes.
Monty Shields,
Yes.
Stephen Shields.
Yes.
The motion passes.
Okay. Next item is a Quick Trip rezoning from M2 Heavy Manufacturing District to C3 Highway Commercial District at property address at 1001 Enterprise Drive, out off 544. Mr. Coots?
You said there's a request for a rezoning. Property is highlighted in the red. The this one also is not developed. It's just an open field right now. Should point out that the property that's highlighted in red, you notice, doesn't really follow property lines. There's a request coming up later on in the agenda that will make that a little bit more clear, but basically the applicant is only purchasing a portion of this property, of a larger piece of property. The property is currently zoned M2, which is the heavy manufacturing district. Notice it's across the street from the Love's gas station. The Love's is zone C3. The request is also to go to the C3, which is the highway commercial district. Otherwise, the property is basically surrounded by the M2 district. The comprehensive plan indicated that a portion of the property was appropriate for commercial, and the remainder would be appropriate for an industrial. I think since it was based on the old property lines, I think a way to read that would be that the frontage along this High Point Industrial Drive, I think it was trying to say that it was appropriate for commercial type uses. This is a street view looking to the north on High Point Industrial Drive. As I said, the property currently is undeveloped. Once again, this is the review criteria to consider when making a recommendation for a rezoning. It's also in the report. And just to summarize, this appears to be consistent with the current and future uses. The property does have frontage on a High Point Industrial Drive, which leads directly to I-44. The access and traffic for the development, when it comes in, will actually be reviewed by MoDOT. Rolla won't have control over that aspect. This property is planned for construction of a gas station and a Quick Trip, to be specific, because that is the applicant. The applicant is here to provide any other information on the request if you need be. And then before you move on to the public hearing, do you have any questions for me?
Any questions? Comments? If not, we'll officially open the public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak to this issue regarding Quick Trip rezoning, please come forward and state your name and address for the record.
Hi, I'm Gwen Keene with Quick Trip, 2255 Bluestone, St. Charles, Missouri. Thank you this evening for being here and for considering our request. We're excited to expand a little further out from St. Louis into the Rolla area. If I might ask, has anybody been to a Quick Trip on? I figure if you've been to St. Louis, you've probably seen a few, or Kansas City. Currently, we're looking to expand out and doing a travel center. So this will not only have auto, but it will have auto diesel and diesel for tractor trailers. So it'll be a smaller type of bay. But this is our new prototype. So for about the last 10 years or so, we've been developing our Gen 3 model. It expands out in that we've got a full service kitchen in there. And so I guess, there you go. So we went to this new model based upon not only customer feedback, but employee feedback. And we took into consideration, our current design typically just had one door. Now we have an expansion out to we have multiple doors. What we do is we try to design these so it's better flow of traffic. We try to separate as much pedestrian traffic from vehicular traffic as we can. This is the inside. So this is our kitchens, our full service counter. We started out with our flatbreads and pretzels and pizzas. We're now starting to develop tacos, barbecue, and made sub sandwiches. Not make it yourself sandwiches. It's full service counter, so we'll make them for you. But basically, you tell us what you want and we'll put together. That's some of our top notch. We have some of the best employees in the industry, and we're very proud of it. Our CEO will say that the best thing about Quick Trip is the employees that we hire. And this is more insides. We expanded out not only the coffee, but we have extensive tea flavorings in these locations. Our counter and the older design, what we had was the counter usually faced outward. But what we've been able to do, because we have such a high def, multi-million-dollar security systems now, that we can have our counter facing inward, and the employees can not only monitor the inside of the store, but they can monitor the outside of the store as well. So I'm proud to say that Quick Trip is a brand of excellence. We are the best of the best. That's not just me saying it, but it's the industry. We're one of the top in the industry. Some of these market dates are actually out of date with the latest and current surveys, but we rank top in the nation. There's so many different lists these days, but if Quick Trip's not number one, we're usually 2 or 3, and it tends to flip around sometimes, but we're always right there near the top. And the other thing that's just some of the details of that report that I kind of missed there was Quick Trip is privately held. So currently, there are no franchise, and nor do we ever intend on being franchised out. So everything that we do is based out of the corporate office in Tulsa, Oklahoma. So with that, we have a lot more control over our branding and over the standards that we expect our stores to be held to. So with Quick Trip, we do give top pay for top people. So one of the things that I'll point out on that slide is that we have an under 10% turnover rate. So typically, once we've got you, you really don't want to leave. I actually currently have 17 years with the company, and I hope to retire with the company as well. We do provide health benefits, not only for full-time employees, but including part-time employees as well. There's tuition reimbursement, full-time employees, profit sharing, 401k. We look to take care of not only our customers, but it's a company that looks to take care of their employees as well. So this impact will have new jobs to the area. We will transfer in an experienced manager, since this is kind of a little bit further out. But once that manager takes hold, we will look to hire local employees. There will be a tax revenue increase, of course. The one thing else I want to point out there is that we are a national safe place. We've had over 100 children and women this year alone have come to our location seeking help, and we've been able to provide them the help that they needed, whether it was to protect them from an abusive parent until the proper people could arrive, or to make sure that we were able to give them first aid before someone else was able to arrive. We train our employees on that program, and we're very proud of that we are a national safe place location. So our guarantee is quality in everything we do. And what you've been waiting for is this is what it'll look like. And that is our new store design. If you notice, there's two front doors, but there's also two side doors as well. Updated the canopies, and that'll be the diesel bay as well. I appreciate your time this evening. If I can answer any of your questions, I'm happy to do so. One of the things that he did touch on in his presentation is MoDOT. We currently do have a traffic study in process. It's not completed as yet, but we did meet not only with the city official, but with MoDOT to make sure that we had a proper scope. And as soon as that we get that back, we'll be able to look further and adjust access if need be based on our site plan. But we hopefully will have that wrapped up by the end of the month and be able to get back with not only your city representatives, but MoDOT to be able to confirm the access for this location. I hope I've answered any of your questions.
I have a question.
Sure.
Do you have, or would you ever plan to have, like, charging stations for electronic vehicles?
Well, our CEO and our petroleum people are we are so geared towards fuel because that's what we need right now. We look to the future all the time to see where that's going. One of the things that why we have fresh food is because we recognize that cigarettes were actually going away because people just don't smoke and consume as much as they used to. So we're very mindful about what the shifting sand is sometimes when it comes to gasoline. Right now, we currently don't see that it's trending fast enough to get to the electronic vehicle, to get to electronic charging stations. Typically, people at a Quick Trip, because of the time frame, 30 minutes or more to charge an electronic vehicle, don't want to stay at a Quick Trip to do that. And we don't have inside seating. We do have outside seating, but not inside seating. So at this time, we don't. But as the industry changes, if in 10 years, half of the population is driving electronic vehicles, we definitely will look to make that adjustment.
Anybody else have a question?
Thank you so much.
Anyone else wishing to speak to this issue about Quick Trip, please come forward. Seeing none, I'll officially close the public hearing. Any questions for Mr. Coots? We're asking you to rezone from M2 to C3, which is medium manufacturing to the third classification of commercial.
Heavy, heavy manufacturing to highway commercial.
So, highway commercial. I knew it had another name I couldn't recall.
Hey, Tom,
Yes.
this is just for my own education here. Is there any possibility that MoDOT would come back and say, no, you can't have driveways there, or is it just a matter of where the driveways might need to go?
There's a definite possibility they'll come back and say you can have as many driveways as is being proposed. I think the bigger question is whether or not there needs to be a left turn lane added to the road and things like that.
Okay.
Yeah, my main concern is the traffic survey, obviously. That's a busy intersection already. Love's has a tremendous amount of trucks going in and out of there, so I would think that would be something that it would be nice if we knew that, what that survey was gonna come back as.
Go ahead.
So we're aware of that as well. One of the things that we're wanting to do is with our directional signage, if at that intersection, what we're gonna do is push the trucks to make a left turn, so they're going down the frontage road and then come out the other way. We think that will help with the circulation there. Instead of them trying to push them down High Point and make a left in, we want them to make a left at that intersection. So we're aware of that. MoDOT can come back and say you can't have anything. It's one of those things that you just adjust to what the traffic study's saying and if they agree with the numbers and the findings. So we are aware of that, and that's why we want to try to promote that circulation.
Has MoDOT considered putting another signal at the next intersection? They've got one. Is that a feasibility?
I couldn't tell you that. I can tell you that the road is.
I guess that would be an option, but I'm not sure it'd be a good one, but it'd be an option because you'd back up, so. Okay, any other questions?
I was gonna say, I can tell you the road is near capacity, so they're gonna be very interested in making sure that whatever happens is.
Yeah, I'm sure that
okay.
they've just spent money redoing that intersection, closed it for a week, so.
Have they looked at any alternative sites, or is that the one they're set on?
Yes, so that for the traffic flow that we're looking for and for the amount of property in order to be in Rolla, we feel this is the best location for us.
Okay. Any other questions? Not, I'd entertain a motion.
I move that we send this request to City Council with our recommendation for approval.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any final questions? Here again, we're rezoning from M2 to C3. Roll call vote, please.
Stephen Shields,
Yes.
Monty Shields,
Yes.
Schmidt,
Yes.
Martin,
Yes.
Eberly,
Yes.
Bowie.
Yes.
The motion passes.
Thank you. Third public hearing tonight is Mr. Brown's property on South Meadow, a preliminary plat of major subdivision to create 5 duplex lots in the R2 two-family district. Mr. Coots. I think it's at the intersection of Lions Club Drive and Highway O.
This one is the only major subdivision on the agenda tonight, so it's a little different from the next 3 we're going to hear. This one is, when you do a major subdivision, it requires a public hearing, and it involves, this is would be called a preliminary plat. So after we get done with this case, they'll come back with another final plat drawing. I believe that only goes to the city council, though. So anyway, this property is located at the southeast corner, State Highway O and Lions Club Drive, it's highlighted in the red. This also is an undeveloped piece of property. You may remember this property was recently rezoned to the R2 district. It was also used to be owned by RMU and was sold to the current owner and the applicant. The zoning map, as I said, this property is zoned R2. The property is surrounded by properties that are, so across the street is the C1 neighborhood commercial, and kind of next to it to the south is the R1, which is the single-family residential, and then across the street of Highway O would be the RR, which is rural residential. There's a street view of the property looking kind of northish from the corner of State Highway O and Lions Club. Once again, this property is an undeveloped piece of property. This is the proposed preliminary plat. It shows 6 lots, but Lot 1 is proposed to be dedicated to the city. Basically, there's a creek running through there and a little bit of floodplain that's associated with that creek. So that's been negotiated to be given back to the city. So they're proposing, basically this would be 5 duplex lots. It's just zoned for R2. It allows for duplex building to be built on the lot. One thing to sort of note, there was a detail on the preliminary plat, so you can't see it on this thing that I have on the screen, but the access to Lions Club Drive is limited, and so they're proposing just one driveway entrance, and I've got a site plan that'll make that clear. So this is the site plan, just to give you an idea how, or no, this is the plat. Just to give you on the air photo, just to give you an idea how the lot lines kind of lay with the area. And then this is the site plan overlaid on top of the air photo to give you an idea of how they propose to develop the property. Now, of course, the applicant isn't exactly bound to this particular site plan, but it's what they're working from at this moment. That's what a lot of the easements that are on the plat are based on. Just in summary, this creates 5 residential duplex lots, 6 lots total, but the other one is to be dedicated to the city. A portion of the portion of the property is to be dedicated back to the city. As a part of the sale of this property to the applicant, there are some strings attached, and so some of the requirements for normal development have been waived. There's a lot of background reasons for that, but there's stormwater requirements, parkland dedication requirements, and one more. But in short, RMU it's been worked out at the city council level. Otherwise, this request appears to meet all other applicable requirements. Before you move on to the public hearing, did you have any questions for me?
There's no parking on either the outside roads, Lions Club or Highway O. Is there ample parking in the site plan? What do they require, 2 per duplex or?
But they have shown, if you look real close, they, in addition to the duplexes having garages proposed, in addition to having some space in front of the garage, they're also proposing kind of a little parking lot.
Oh, okay.
So in essence, they're shooting to have about 1 per bedroom and maybe even a couple more than that.
But the buildings are including garages then?
Yes.
Oh, okay, that'll make a difference. Any other questions? Ms. Eberly?
It said there was the sidewalk situation. They were going to fill in a gap instead of trying to build on Highway O. Is that connecting to the sidewalk that comes out by the?
Yeah, so basically,
Oak Point?
what the applicant has turned in improvement plans now, because they also have to extend the public sewer. On the improvement plan, they are indicating that basically there's the sidewalk currently stops right about where the mouse.
By Oak Point there?
Anyway,
Yeah, right.
the sidewalk stops,
Yeah,
and so they would pick it up and bring it all the way to State Highway O.
okay.
Rather than build, ordinarily they would have there be a gap between the two, and then they would have done one along Highway O. And so, in working with staff, we felt that it would be better to just connect that gap and worry about Highway O at a later time.
Okay.
And then how many entrances to the 2 roads? Just one? did you
Just
say?
one point of access on Lions
One
Club.
point of access? Okay.
Any other questions? Thank you, Tom. not, we'll officially open the public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak to this issue, please come forward, state your name and address for the record.
My name's Gene Bingham at 816 Highway O, and we own the home that's just south. We just got where they're gonna put this addition. And I'm sure that you would probably feel like I do if you owned the property there, and we've been there for many years. And it's really going to be hard to live with that. Privacy will be almost nil. So, as you can tell, I'm not in favor of it.
Okay.
And it's supposed to be, if it's my understanding, it'll probably be duplexes, and they'll be 2 stories, at least 2 stories high. And how much of a setback will there be on the property from my line, our line?
They'll be close to your tomatoes, Gene.
Yeah.
I don't know what setback is. I'd have to look it up. That way we can give you an answer pretty quick. You're the property just to the south, right?
Yes, We run all the way from Highway O all the way back to the back end of where they're
Yeah,
300 and some feet.
yeah. Go all the way back to the nursing home property,
Right.
Okay.
When I bring up the, this one. So he's referring to owning the property right to the south here. Just give you,
Yes.
I brought up this picture to give you an idea of how the lot lines lay. So it's a little weird. So it's a little easier for lots 2, 3, and 4. That would be a rear setback in that case, which is 10 feet. Yep. 10 feet is what the required setback is, and they're also proposing a 10-foot utility easement on that side. Lot 6 is a little bit strange, even though it's not being accessed from State Highway O. That'd be its front side, because it's the only side that has any street frontage, and so it wouldn't be on the State Highway O side. So the south side would actually be a side setback. The side setback is in this case would just be 5 feet. But also notice they are proposing a 10-foot utility easement along that south side. So what's proposed, the zoning would allow them to be 10 feet from that property line.
Any questions for Gene? Any other comments, Gene? Did he answer your question?
Yes. I don't quite understand the setback on the front there. You said just 5 feet. Is that the lot that the
Off Highway
utility's
O?
gonna-
Yeah, lot 6, the frontage is to the main highway, so it's a side setback rather than a front setback. The front setback's 10 feet, the side only requires 5 feet. So lot 6 has only got 5, but he says there's also a 10-foot utility set up there too, so I guess it would be at least 10 foot, maybe 15,
Well,
Just
they'd have to
10.
be 10 feet because of the
Yeah.
utility easement.
because of the utility. So 10 feet.
Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak to this issue, please come forward. Seeing none, I'll officially close the public hearing. Questions or comments from the commissioners?
This one I do want to read the alternatives because it's a little different than especially the first 2 cases, but you do have some alternatives which are you can accept the request that find that the request meets the minimum requirements and recommend that the city council approve the preliminary plat. You can find that the request does not meet minimum requirements and so recommend that the city council not approve the preliminary plat. We can find that the request could meet the requirements and so recommend that the city council approve the request with certain conditions, or if you need some time to make a decision, of course, table to a certain date. Did you have any questions for me?
On this, the last photo you had up there showing the buildings, the outline of the buildings, there's something going cattywampus across the southeast corner. What is that, an easement?
Yeah, another easement. Basically, we see how there's trees.
Yeah,
The property owner is seeking to preserve as many trees as possible. So that's why you'll also see that the buildings are sort of the way they're set up. He set him more than 10 feet from that south property line. He set him about 20 feet in order to preserve as many trees as possible. They're also interested in, you know, in having some privacy between them and the adjacent property owners. So that easement that goes diagonally is intended to be basically allow for a different way for utilities to go, so that hopefully they'll leave some of the trees alone. Basically, was sort of the idea behind that.
so as far as privacy for their home, those trees will be left, and that building is gonna be a long way from their property line, right? On that
The-
lot, if it stays the way you're showing it?
Yes.
Okay. So that's gonna give them some protection.
I should point out that this is the plan that they're working on, but they are by no means required to
No,
stick
I
with the plan.
understand, I understand.
And Tom, I'm assuming this has all been looked at by the public safety group and the trash, everybody coming in and out of that? Is there enough room allowed there for them to do what they need to do with trucks?
So, probably,
Since
There's
there's
a-
only
the-
one access, that's
Yeah.
what I'm kind of,
the dumpster trash is proposed to be up here toward the front there, so that basically so they can just pull right in the front, get it and go.
okay.
And they revised the plan to make it to where because there's a 90-degree turn once you get in here. They revised the plan so that fire trucks can more easily make that turn.
Oh.
And yes, we did talk about it at the DRC meeting
Okay.
with everybody.
There wasn't any other issues at the DRC that weren't addressed?
No, the applicants, I believe, has taken care of everything that's come up.
Any questions or comments from commissioners? Here again, we're being asked to approve a preliminary plat of a major subdivision. I'd entertain a motion.
Can you make a motion that ties it to this layout?
Not really.
No.
Well, you can make a motion that requires them to have approval of conditions, so you could put a condition.
You could put a condition.
You can put a condition to that.
Condition that would tie it to this layout.
You could propose it, we'd have to vote on it.
And then if we do that, that condition goes to city council, and then council would have
Yeah,
to
the
vote
council
the same
has to-
way?
Not
Or-
necessarily.
Or, well, they would have to
Right.
vote either to take the condition off or leave it on.
Yeah, they could take it off or leave it on or amend it.
Right.
I'm standing up here trying to find the exact section, but if you do move forward with a condition, you've got to justify it in some way.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to find that section and read it so you knew. There we are.
And here again, this is the preliminary plat, not a final plat, so.
Right.
Basically, you can put any condition that can be used to promote the safety and general welfare of future landowners in the city, and to conform with appropriate and economic development of the city.
It's already zoned R2, so they have the legal right to put in R2 housing, so you can't affect that, so.
I was just thinking on the privacy and the safety issue.
Okay.
So Tom, that with this, they could not change their mind and bring an access in from Highway O, correct? Or could they?
And if you get MoDOT's approval to go and come in on Highway O.
Yeah, I talked to MoDOT already about this property when this first came up, and if what would require would be the city refusing to let them have access onto Lions Club, and then they would consider it on the very southern end of the property, maybe. So with the city allowing an access onto off of Lions Club,
They're fine with that.
Right.
I just, because I would have some concerns with it coming off of O.
Right.
Well, this is in my neighborhood, sort of, and I drive by here all the time, and it hurts my heart that this won't be a big open field anymore. But I guess I don't see any way that we could put a condition on that would meet the requirements of what Tom was talking about. And it does appear that the developer has at least looked at the possibility of keeping some sort of buffer between themselves and the Bingham property. And so I guess I would make a motion that we go ahead and accept that this request meets the requirements and send it on to City Council.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any final questions or comments? Roll call vote, please.
Bowie,
Yes.
Eberly,
Yes.
Martin,
Yes.
Schmidt,
Yes.
Monty Shields,
No.
Stephen Shields.
No.
The motion passes 4-6.
Okay, we'll send it on to her. This will go on to the city council. They have the right to change it or anything changed, so they will have another public hearing, so. The next three items are actually more new that I don't think we require a public hearing, do we, Tom, on those? I think we
Well-
posted as a public hearing, but,
Yes, you're correct.
all three, I think, are just, new business, unless I'm misinterpreting it, so. Based on that, I'll, move we approve the agenda. Anybody, all those opposed, say aye. To move that from public hearings to new business. So, propose we do that. All those in favor of making that change to the agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Okay, that makes it legal, I think. First item under new business is Quick Trip. A minor subdivision to combine properties, change lot lines, and vacate easements resulting to two lots at property located at 4001 Enterprise Drive. Mr. Coots.
This is, they're calling this Quick Trip number 7067 edition. The entire property is highlighted in the red. This is the air photo of the area. And you'll notice this includes more than the rezoning that we just talked about a little bit ago. The reason why is the current seller of the property, the Rolla Development Corporation, owns the entire property, and they're the ones who are selling a portion of their property to Quick Trip, and they wanted to basically only that portion was what was requested for the rezoning. So in order to sell only a portion of the property, they're asking for this minor subdivision. But you'll notice, see how there's some lines in between in that red area. That's kind of what this is about. The property is currently, right now, at this moment, all zoned M2, the heavy manufacturing. As I'm sure you remember, just earlier in this meeting, recommended the City Council approve a rezoning of a portion of this property to the C3 Highway Commercial District. That rezoning doesn't affect the requirements for this platting process, so it doesn't really matter which one it's zoned as far as this goes. And it's surrounded by properties that are zoned M2 and not in the city, and it's across the street from the Loves, which is C3. Street view, same view as the last case. It's a large undeveloped piece of property. This is the plat, and so basically right now there's 2 platted lots and a unplatted area, and so basically what this plat would do is there would be a platted lot kind of down here that the Rolla Development Corporation would retain, and then the other portion, which is the portion that Quick Trip is looking to acquire. There is as a part of this, a request for a vacation of some easements, and the applicant is proposing to give some new easements to make up for that. But basically, as this area kind of, I'll flash it again, in blue that's come up, there's these easements interfere with the development of the property, and there's nothing in the easements, they're not needed for anything, and so these are proposed to be vacated, and replacement easements will be provided along the frontage of the property along High Point and the outer road. Just in summary, this plat will end up creating 2 commercials or industrial lots. Easements are proposed to be vacated with this plat. The easements are no longer needed. Replacement easements are proposed to be provided as part of this plat. This appears to be in compliance with all applicable requirements. Did you have any questions for me? Before you move on to talking about it.
Any questions? Here again, the review committee met and worked all this out, and there's no problems that you're aware of?
Well, with the plat especially,
Yeah.
we've seen a copy of the proposed site plan, and we've provided some guidance on that, but a formal building permit application has not been submitted, so there definitely could be some issues with the development itself. But as far as this plat combining and recombining to get these lot lines figured out, don't have any problems with that.
Okay. Any other questions, comments? You're being asked to approve a minor subdivision, combine properties, change lot lines, and vacate easements, resulting in 2 lots. Here again, I'd entertain a motion.
I move that we accept the request because it meets the requirements and be submitted to the city council.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any final questions or comments? Roll call vote, please.
Stephen Shields,
Yes.
Monty Shields,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Martin,
Yes.
Eberly,
Yes.
Bowie.
Yes.
The motion passes.
Okay, thank you. Next item is a minor alumni association, a minor subdivision to combine current ownership into 1 lot. Mr. Coop.
This one's proposed to be called Minor Alumni Edition. The Alumni Association has purchased an additional property adjacent to their main building, and the backstory is basically they intend to tear the building down and possibly build a parking lot or something like that. So this plat is intended to sort of get all their ownership under one lot, so there's no issues with building across lot lines and things like that. The property is zoned to Center City. There's a street view. That current building that's on the lot is intended, as I said, to be demolished. Plat's pretty simple, just 1 lot, combining all their properties into this 1 lot. You'll notice on there that they did do, apparently in the past, 2 vacations. There was an alley that went through, that bisected the block. And they also did a vacation of 8 inches of 11th Street on the south, so this plat also sort of makes that nice and clear that it's all 1 lot. Just in summary, it combines all their property, their ownership into 1 lot, It's intended to allow for development of a parking lot. Now, who knows, at some point in the future, this may also help them if they wanted to do an addition on the building or something like that. And then it appears to be in compliance with all applicable requirements. Do you have any questions for me before you make a vote?
Is the building that's on the lot that they purchased a relatively new building? It looked,
I don't think so.
The old campus ministry.
Bookstore?
There was a bookstore at one time, then
Yeah.
there was
okay.
one of the religious facilities had a
Facilities, yeah.
campus,
Ministry there.
Christian, I think. It's been there a long time, as far as I know.
Just
Um,
wondering about any kind of
no, his was-
historical value to that building, or,
I don't think so. The one they tore down to build the current building had some, but,
yeah.
Yeah.
and they had the old
Yeah.
movie theater on the corner that they tore down.
It doesn't appear to,
I think the historical
Real
part's
historic.
already been done. I don't think this is,
Yeah, no, I don't
And
think
it's
this
kind
one
of
falls
fallen in
on that one.
disrepair.
it's a good old house, but not that good, so. And the university owns the property to the east, so. But the Alumni Association is separate from the university, but they-
Yes.
although the university's leasing the basement of it now, so, I think. Any other questions or comments? They need the parking, for sure. so.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Any other questions, comments? And entertain a motion? Here again, we're being asked to approve a minor subdivision to combine current ownership into one lot.
I move that we send this request to the city council with our recommendation.
Okay.
Second.
Monty and Steve Shields, got that? Okay. Any final questions? Roll call vote, please.
Eberly,
yes.
Bowie,
Yes.
Martin,
Yes.
Schmidt,
Yes.
Monty Shields,
Yes.
Stephen Shields.
Yes.
The motion passes.
Last item is a Mike Patel, Old Wire Road, plat number 1, a minor subdivision to reconfigure 3 platted lots into 2 commercial lots. It's out on North Old Wire Road off I-44. Tom?
This one is proposed to be called Old Wire Road Plat Number 1. There, a photo of the property. The applicant has purchased 3 of the platted lots and has already built a hotel across 2 of them. And so this request is intended to sort of add a property line so that to take part of this lot that's been built on and add it to the other lot so that there'll be a bigger lot to build on. The property is zoned C2, which is the general retail district. It is adjacent to a residential subdivision that's zoned R1, single family. Street view, as I said, there's a hotel been developed on the west half of the property, and the east half is currently undeveloped. The plat's pretty simple, just 2 proposed lots and taking the 3 and making 2. Just in summary, the plat combines properties to create 2 commercial lots. Lot 1 is currently developed, Lot 2 is undeveloped. This appears to be in compliance with the applicable requirements. Do you have any questions for me before you move to voting?
Any questions, Tom? It's pretty straightforward, I think. Gives them the ability to do something else with the other commercial lots. An Old Wire Road should be North Outer Road, but you can't get to the interstate by going on Old Wire Road unless you know how to get there, so. Any questions or comments? And entertain a motion?
I move we send this proposal to the city council with our approval.
Okay.
Second,
Stephen Shields, Monty Shields, first and second. Final questions, comments? Roll call vote, please.
Stephen Shields,
Yes.
Monty Shields,
Yes.
Schmidt,
Yes.
Martin,
Yes.
Eberly,
Yes.
Bowie.
Yes.
The motion passes.
Thank you. We have no old business. Chairperson has nothing to report. We have no outstanding committees. Only thing I've noticed is the portable yard signs are starting to pop up like dandelions, which I thought would happen, but they haven't been too bad yet, so. Also, there's a lot going on, Taco Bell, Sonic, they're remodeling Johnny's Smokestack, Slice of Pie, so a lot going on. Anything else, Mr. Coots, from staff? Any comments from the commissioners?
Don, I understand our colleague here, Mr. Anderson's quite sick in the hospital. They don't really know exactly what's wrong with him.
Okay, I'm sorry to hear that, so
See, the,
we'll give an excuse
keep
absence.
him in your prayers. He had
Okay, we'll.
either maybe congestive heart failure or maybe a virus. They don't seem to know.
Okay, well, we miss his presence and we wish him well, so. Nothing that, any comments from the audience? RD, any comments? I think you're, you and the two ladies, we've lost our audience. Okay, if not, we're adjourned. Thank you for your coming out.
Looking at it here, I was still back on the other one.
Steve?
Could have been someplace else.